What's up, Nerdyverse? I'm Daddy Louie, and in this video, we are taking a look at a game called School of Sorcery. So stick around. Before we get started, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe for more content and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. A few months ago, I reviewed a game called The Little Flower Shop by Dr. Finn's Games, and I'm very excited to be bringing you yet another game from Dr. Finn's Games. Now, if you have been a fan of Dr. Finn's Games for a while, you may be familiar with a game called The Institute for Magical Arts. And that game was successfully kickstarted back in 2015. Well, here we are, 2020, and enter School of Sorcery. School of Sorcery is the game that we are reviewing today, and it is a revised version of that Institute for Magical Arts. And it's like a complete rework. All of the art is changed. The components have been upgraded. All of the spells have been reworked, and all of that good stuff. I'm a big fan of, like I said, The Little Flower Shop, so I love Dr. Finn's Games. I'm really excited to be bringing you this review for this game. It is a two-player game. It takes about 40 minutes to play. It was a little quicker for us when we were play testing, and it is slated for ages 14 and up. But is it good? Well, if you'll join me on the table, we'll check. Okay, so once inside the box, we have some pretty cool components. We have our location tiles. They're made of cardboard. We have some player boards, also made of cardboard, some reroll tokens, some score track cubes, colored dice for each of the two players, and colored gems. I really like the gems. These are really cool components. They're just made out of plastic, but I don't know, I like them. I used to use gems like this when I played Keyforge, so when I saw these inside the bag, I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, we have our cards. Now, the art in this game, it's not anything to write home about, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not ugly or horrible by any stretch. It's just not as, pretty or elaborate as, The Little Flower Shop or whatever. But we've got the magical items that you're going to be trying to win, a portal card, and then a hand of casting cards, one in each color for each of the two players. So let me go ahead and set up for a game, and I'll show you guys how it plays. All right, so in this two-player game, at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get a player board, a victory point token. That's just to move along the player board to keep track of score. You're going to get 3 dice to match your color. You're also going to get 3 reroll tokens, and then you're going to get 2 items to start the game with. For beginners, you're just going to deal 2 to each player. For more advanced players, you're going to deal 3 to each player, keep 1, pitch 1, and give 1 to your opponent. So that's how each game will start. You're then going to set up the 6 location tiles, which I've done here, 5 up here and then another one down there. And the portal card will go on the number 6 location, and then you will deal cards randomly from the rest of your card pile to each of the other 5 locations. The object of the game is to be the first player to get to 13 points. You score points as soon as you win one of the cards, as well as the cards that you start with. So you see here, the 2 cards that I have, each one is worth 1 victory point. That's from the upper right-hand corner right here. And so I automatically start the game with 2 VP. Now, starting with both players go simultaneously. So the very first thing that happens is each player will take 5 crystals of their color. That's from the pool of crystals that'll be off to the side. And then you will cast crystals. In order to cast crystals, you're going to take the 3 dice that you had. You're going to shake them up and roll them out. You can use, of course, one of your reroll tokens that you have to reroll any number of the dice that you have. But you can only do this once per turn, and there are ways to get more reroll tokens. And these dice are the locations that you can cast crystals onto. So I can cast crystals onto 1, 4, or 6 using the cards, the casting cards in my hand. So this is where kind of like a bluff engine comes in. You can see which locations your opponent can place on, but there's a couple of bluffing things that you can do. So one is this card here with the X, placing that down means you cast nothing. So that's kind of like your little bluff there. Then these two cards with the little rotating symbol, that means that you're actually going to be casting on the opposite location of the number showing, opposite the die. So for a 1, you'd be casting on location 6. For this 4 here, you would be casting on location 3. And you can do that with a 1 crystal or a 2 crystal. And then there's just a 1, 2, and 3 for normal play. And what you're trying to do is have the matching number of crystals that's in the top left corner. So to get this cup here, you need to have 5 crystals on it. And the number underneath it is how many crystals you need to be beating your opponent by. So not only do I need to have 5, but I also need to have 2 more than my opponent. So if both me and my opponent have 5 crystals on here, neither one of us gets it because we need to be beating the other person by 2. And then once I collect this, I would get 3 victory points. And because it is a green card, this effect would happen immediately, which is add 1 crystal to any location. There are green, yellow, and red cards. The green cards have an effect that happens immediately. The yellow cards have an effect that's once per game, but you can use it at any time that you see fit. And then the red cards are permanent, and every round you will get the opportunity to use their abilities. That's why you started with 2 of them. So once you have decided how you are going to lay your cards down, let's say I put this 2 here, this 1 here, and this blank there. You would then reveal them simultaneously. So everybody would reveal, and I've chosen to put 2 crystals on number 6. So I put 2 crystals on the portal over here, 1 crystal on number 4, location number 4, and then no crystals on location number 1. And my opponent would do the same thing at the same time. The next thing that happens is the use of the portal. So if one player has crystals on the portal, that player can then move those crystals anywhere on the board that they want to. If both players have crystals on the board, then you take a die, cover it up so that your opponent can't see it, and decide where you want those crystals to go. And then at the same time, you'd both reveal, and that's where the crystals would go. Again, kind of like a little bluffing mechanic. You don't know what your opponent's going to do. So you've taken 5 crystals, you've cast your crystals onto your card, and you've used the portals. Now it's time to activate your abilities. So any red cards that you have, you will go in player order. So whoever has the most victory points is actually the first player. And you would activate your abilities in whatever order you want to. So for example, here I've got this ring that says roll 2 dice and remove an opponent's crystal from each location. So I would roll 2 dice, and I could remove 2 crystals from location number 5 of my opponent's if he had some. Sacred Stone here is add a crystal to location 2 and or 5 if you have fewer crystals there. So if my opponent had, 2 crystals here, I could put a crystal there, for example. And then the second player gets to activate all of their abilities. And there's lots of different abilities in the game. There's some that let you move other players' crystals, remove other players' crystals, etc. And then finally, in Phase 5, we go to evaluate the locations. When we evaluate locations, we're going from number 6 down to number 1, and we're looking at how many crystals are on them and if they can be won by a certain player. So we would start at 6. Obviously, it's the portal. Nobody can win that. We then go to 5. If my opponent has 3 and I only have 1, they would win this because they They have 3, and they're beating me by 2. That's what this 3 and this 2 means. They would immediately collect this card and score 2 victory points. And then we would go to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. Everything would then shift down 1, and then we would draw a new card to replace the card the cards that had been purchased. And that's how you play. You take turns, and then it starts over again with taking 5 new crystals. You don't have to spend all of your crystals from turn to turn. So last turn I only used 3. I have 2 left. I still select 5, so now I'm at 7 crystals. Then we roll the dice. We place our casting cards on the locations that we want to cast crystals onto. You use the portal if anybody has any crystals there. Activate your powers, and then evaluate your location. You're going to do this round after round until somebody gets to 13. And for longer games, they've even given us the option to go to 16 on the player board. The only time that the witch switches is if at the end of the round, the other player would have more victory points. Basically, whoever has the most victory points is the person who controls the witch. And that only really matters because everything in the game is pretty much simultaneous. The only time that being first player matters is when activating abilities. Whoever is first player will get to activate their red card abilities first, and that's it. And that's everything you need to know in order to play School of Sorcery. I think it's a wonderful 2-player game. It's a lot of fun. Each time that we played this game, we got a completely different experience because there's so many different variations between the rolling of the dice, the drawing of which items are going to go into which location. We just had a lot of fun with it, and I really liked that it was only a 2-player game. It's very rare these days to find 2-player only games. Usually they're meant to be played with 2 or more players. So in my household, we're finding a gamer right now to game with is a little bit difficult. Having just a 2-player game was very, very welcome. A few people I noticed criticized that the art wasn't great. I don't really care about that. I think the art is just fine, and it plays, the fun of the game wasn't ruined by the art being minimal and stuff like that. So if you're a fan of Harry Potter, if you're a fan of magic and schools of magic and things like that, if you're a fan of 2-player games, and of course if you're a fan of Dr. Finn's games, this game is going to check all of your boxes, and you should definitely go and pick it up. It was successfully funded in January. It is now about to be out there in the wild for everybody else to get. So go and get yourself a copy, because I have a feeling you guys are going to like this one. What do you guys think of School of Sorcery? Let me know down in the comments section below. I love interacting with you guys and reading all of your comments. If you would like to see more from the Circle of Nerds, you can check us out over on all of our social media. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, all at Circle of Nerds. Also, don't forget that we have a podcast that comes out every Wednesday called The Cosmic Disaster Show. You can find that right here on YouTube or anywhere that you enjoy listening to podcasts. Also, we have a Facebook Live stream that happens every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time called Nerds on Ice. Definitely check that out. And for an extra bit of love and affection to us here at the Circle of Nerds, please consider checking us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/circleofnerds. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. I will see you in the next video.